I think advocacy can look different for many people. It doesn't have to look like one specific way. I think we all have unique access to various resources, whether that is signing onto a pledge or donating or sharing with a friend of what's happening in your area, or getting to know your own headwaters to these streams and the rivers that you live next to. Where your drinking water comes from, I think is super important and part of the advocacy work that folks can have access to at varying levels.
There's been about like 8 of them in this one.
I'm Erica Nelson. I am the Equity and Engagement Manager at WRA. I am also a fly fishing and whitewater guide. I first became aware of my environment and nature around me not till later in life. I was in college and just started walking around outside, and some call that hiking. And that's kind of when I started getting outside and I got addicted. There's a lot of places that have important meaning to me. I grew up in the Four Corners area of New Mexico, which has a lot of rich history. I am also Navajo, also known as Dene, and I didn't really have a strong connection with the outdoors growing up. After leaving and living all over the West Coast, all the places I have spent time in have been really special. I particularly live in Ute Territory, which is currently known as Crested Butte, Colorado. And it is a really special place to me. And now that I've lived here, I enjoy going back home for that rich history and the rivers back home. The journey to Crested Butte was through work. I was working for Vail Resorts, and what brought me to Crested Butte was the work that I'm involved in. So my background is in organizational leadership development, and a career path took me here, and I just fell in love with the landscape and the fishing here. I like to think that fly fishing is a gateway towards conservation, and I do a lot of advocacy work within the fly fishing industry when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think for me personally, my path into conservation and advocacy work was through spending time outdoors. I could see the way that everything was connected, and I wanted to protect these places. And when things are threatened, such as water rights or land rights, I've got really passionate about protecting these areas. And people that I brought into this space, especially introduced fly fishing to, have also become advocates as well. So I've kind of seen this pattern of fly fishing being that gateway towards conservation. I think growing up in New Mexico, I've always heard, we're in a drought. And as a small child in kindergarten, I did not know what that meant. But throughout my upbringing, it was very concerning about water levels. And I was just taught at an early age to conserve water. And that's kind of stayed with me throughout my adult life. And I think now that I'm more involved in these efforts when it comes to protection of water, I think one of the major things that I'm excited that I've been working with are the Colorado River guidelines here at WRA, and I think that's something that I'm super passionate about and something that I'm actually feeling like I'm making progress into helping protect our river basin. Growing up in New Mexico, I didn't really understand the beauty of New Mexico, so I couldn't wait to leave like any other child in one area might state. So I ended up moving to Utah, and I worked seasonal jobs, and I also was kind of fitting in school. I'm a non-traditional student, and I just kind of had this calling for adventure. And when I got into the outdoor space, hiking, I wanted to learn backpacking, I wanted to learn rock climbing, skiing, all the things. And so I would take on these seasonal jobs that allowed me to try these new things. So I moved to Alaska for a seasonal job, the Grand Canyon, the South Rim for a seasonal job. Spent some time in Las Vegas, California, and I became a commercial whitewater guide on the American River, and spent some time in the North Shore Lake Tahoe. And so I've kind of been all over the place, and I really have my heart set in the Intermountain West, and I think that this is where I belong, and it's just a place that I've loved. Has been in organizational leadership development, and I also did some DEI consulting, diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting. I am the co-founder of Real Consulting, and that we specialize in racial equity and inclusion, looking out for organizations and individuals. And through that journey, I found WRA it's just like a beautiful passion of all of my skill sets, but also expertise. So how can I incorporate equity and engagement, but also this organizational development side? So working on the people, equity, and culture team, I feel like all of my experience has led me to WRA in some beautiful way. I keep doing this work because I'm super passionate about it, and I just kind of keep thinking back on my journey of what led me to this work, which was outdoor recreation, being that gateway towards conservation. And being a guide and an instructor, I've also seen that journey and path towards other folks. And I've also seen disparities when it comes to historically excluded communities and how often I don't see them out here or doing advocacy work. And so making that accessible and also meeting folks with empathy and where they're at, and understanding how we can bridge these gaps to build stronger community and connection. I have hope for the future with this work because I have just seen transformational change, not only within myself, but other folks that I bring into the outdoor space, but also the advocacy work that I do. I think it's super important to continue to advocate for clean energy, clean air, healthy rivers in our lands for future generations.